All right. Good afternoon or late morning, everyone. This is Tim Sarantonio, Neon One. I got Sarah here too. And really excited to have you. We're going to let people kind of cycle in if, especially given that we're doing a Giving Day presentation. I think today more than ever, I want to hear who's here and where are you from. So if you can use the Q&A to put in where you are, where you're from, that would be great. We're going to go ahead and get formally started very, very shortly in today's presentation. Let me move my screen a little bit here. All right, and if you've been joining our webinars, you may notice that I'm wearing a different hat today. It's a very special day. I just got this hat literally 10 minutes before the webinar and like furiously worked to get it to turn on. So that hat, yes, I know. Thank you. Love the hat. Where can I get one? I would totally, I mean, the Instagram is a wild thing, but actually our partner, Chris Strupp, turned me on to the hat. It's the LED hat. LED hat. Awesome. So we got Sarah, let's read off. We got Kansas City, Charlotte, we got Nashville, we got Houston, we got Rhett Play Love Foundation in Louisville. Louisville represent. Welcome, new Neon client. Great to have you. We got Michigan. We have Scott here, who I met last year in the P2P conference. Hello, Scott. Welcome. Good to see you. We have New Orleans. Awesome. Very cool. Got another New Orleans. Hey. Awesome. We got a bunch of Arizona. Very excited to welcome people from Arizona. And this is going to come into play a little bit later on too, depending on where you're from. We got Franklin Grove, Illinois. We got a lot of Arizona. Really cool. We have Oregon, Scottsdale, Arizona. Sarah, where you're from? Where are you?
I'm in St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri. Got a bunch of New Orleans. Got some Pennsylvania, Virginia, Los Angeles. Awesome. Boulder, Colorado. Wonder Woman costumes. Yes, they are still there. Montana, Chicago. Awesome. And I'm speaking to you from upstate New York, actually. So really, really excited for today's presentation. A lot of interest on this one. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just so we can ensure that we're looking at things. Sarah, do you see my screen? Can you confirm that? Yes.
I do.
Awesome. So I'm going to kind of move your head off to the side. And folks, this hat may be distracting. What type am I supposed to be seeing, everyone? What you type? Oh, are you not seeing my questions? Katie, I saw that, but there was a lot of people who wrote where they were from, so I have not seen your questions. But we do have too much fun. Okay, if people think that the hat's not too distracting, then I'm going to keep it on for as long as it stays on. So we are going to be having a staff member from Neon One answer questions. I did kind of blast the Q&A with a bunch of physical locations. So the Neon team will be going through and helping if there's anything relating to, my audio's not working, or is this recorded? I'm going to cover a little bit of that in housekeeping, and the team's here at our disposal. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive in. We only see our own questions and comments and not everyone else's. Yes, that to my understanding, I think that you might not be able to see everybody else's stuff. This is just kind of how GoToWebinar works. We are actively looking into a more interactive platform, by the way. But I am seeing everyone's and reading it out loud. So, and if there's a question that I type in or we type in, we can send it to everyone so you can see the answer too. That is a capability. So, All right. Cool. Sarah, you ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready. Let's dive in. Okay, so I want to get into some housekeeping items first, and I'm going to drag our webinar stuff off to the side here, but I have my questions up in case everybody can see. And okay, whatever. So first and foremost, today is being recorded. Our webinars are also recorded, and if you want to get them at a later date, then you just need to go to our website at neon1.com, neon1.com, on the fly. I know. If you want to get the resources section is where you can actually find that. So basically, that's happening now. We're recording things right now. We are going to be taking questions. Sarah and I are going to have a nice conversation back and forth as well as with you. We'd love and are actively working on our webinar experience where everybody's in a chat and there's room and stuff like that. But can anyone access the recordings at neon1.com? Absolutely. You don't have to be a client. We don't care about that. It's a resource. And so we're going to be taking questions as a resource. Sarah is an absolute expert. She's lived actually running through giving days, and that's why we're excited to be working with her. That's actually how we connected, through Twitter and social media and all that type of stuff. So really, really exciting to have her here. And we're going to focus on that practical experience. We both have a pretty extensive background doing things like peer-to-peer for small nonprofits, medium-sized nonprofits, and beyond. And we are going to be talking a little bit about the future of the technology that we have. It's not going to be the primary thing. If you aren't using anything for the Neon One ecosystem, don't worry, you're going to get a lot out of this. But especially one of the reasons I asked where you're from is that we're going to actually have in the handout that you can download that will also be put into the website for free. It's going to be a list of upcoming spring giving days. I'm going to go over that at the very end, but everything that I'm going to show you from a tech standpoint, you're actually going to be able to leverage if you're part of that giving day. Now that's only our stuff, can't speak to anybody else's, but we're very excited to debut the future of peer-to-peer with you. Now, I always love starting our presentations with a framing quote. This is from Margaret J. Wheatley, who is an author that focuses on organizational and systems management and analysis. And there is no power for change greater than a community discovering what it cares about. And I thought that was very applicable for what we're going to be talking about today. So very excited about that. I'm going to go over our learning objectives, but our agenda for the next hour or so is what exactly are giving days in the relation of peer-to-peer fundraising to that, and then getting into the brass tacks of recruitment and enablement. So as we walk through the presentation, and Sarah, when we get to your slides, just tell me when you're ready to kind of like, okay, next slide, Tim, if I miss a cue.
Got it.
So recruitment and enablement, how do you find these folks? How do you find these folks? And then what do you do after the day in terms of retention? We have some hot off the presses. I mean, you folks are getting a lot of exclusive content today. That's what I'm really excited about. You're actually going to see some not even published data from the Fundraising Effectiveness Project. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to be sharing this, but I'm going to. And we're going to talk a little bit about the technology, but I want to set some expectations on, what are you going to get out of this? Because in all honesty, if you look at the what you won't learn, or you look at the target audience and you think this is not for you, like, get some time back in your day, okay? I don't want to waste your time. But social good organizations who are either interested in or already hosting or participating in a community giving day, which we're going to define explicitly, but these are things like Give NOLA Day. This is Washington Gives. This is North Texas Giving Day. But how is it? Give St. Louis Day? Is it Give STL?
We say Give STL Day.
Give STL. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See, it's those regional nuances. North Platte Giving Day. So those are the ones where you go to a dedicated site and you're going to have a profile on the day, and people can find you in a directory and give, and there's a big celebration. There might even be a live stream. That's what we're talking about today. And so what you're going to learn is how peer-to-peer fundraising is becoming an extremely big component of these types of events, the actual tips to recruit and motivate peer-to-peer fundraisers, especially given a giving day. You might get something out of it for general year-round usage too, by the way. Important steps to take after launching your giving day centered peer-to-peer campaign. Again, you might get things that work for a year-over-year campaign or another type of thing, but a lot of what we're doing is specifically centered around a giving day because there's nuances to this. And then we're going to give you a preview of how we at Neon One are supporting our giving days, as well as the nonprofits that utilize those giving days. And how do you find a giving day in your area? Now, Sarah, I might ask you in terms of that, but we're going to give you a little bit of help, at least for the ones we know about. So that's part of the resources deck, Catherine. That's a really good question. The honest answer is it's really hard because there's not one directory of all these things. So a lot of it is up to the communities and the platforms that host them. So we're doing a lot to help that. What you won't learn is we're not going to dive into a lot of the nuances of, well, I'm trying to do like a hybrid event and I want to do like a peer-to-peer like virtual race. Like that's not the type of peer-to-peer that we're talking about today. This is more activating your networks. We have stuff on that, and definitely we have resources on that. That's just not what we're going to focus in on today. And then a really big caveat, okay? Because I want to save the Q&A. What I'm going to show you from a tech standpoint does not sync into the Neon CRM system yet. Okay, give us a little bit of time. So what I'm going to show you is the first step toward the evolution of peer-to-peer in the Neon One ecosystem. These things take time when you do them right. We are excited to debut where the future is. And if you are participating in a giving day, you will be able to use what we're showcasing. And then you can also download that data and put it into any CRM. That's another caveat here. But the whole point of Neon One is that we streamline the process for you, so give us a little bit of time on that one. So first, Sarah, that's enough talking from me. Who are you? Who are you?
Hey, everybody. So my name's Sarah Willey, and I'm currently a nonprofit consultant. I entered the nonprofit sector primarily because I was super passionate about environmental issues, and I've spent a lot of my career working for and volunteering for environmental organizations, but I've also spent time with other types of nonprofits. And what gets me really excited when it comes to fundraising, I get super excited about those donors that we sometimes call small or mid-level. And I put that in quotes because I hate to think of any donor as small or mid-level because the size of the gift in dollars doesn't necessarily tell us a whole lot about the size of the gift in passion or even necessarily impact. I also really love giving as an act of community. So that's what gets me really excited about both peer-to-peer and give days. And today I get to talk about where those come together. So that's very exciting to me. And I'm also a total data nerd. So love to talk about some data. And we have some of that in our presentation today.
Yes.
I have a master's in nonprofit management, and I'm working on a doctor of business administration. So data nerds who can't quit school, you've got me pegged now. And a fun fact about me is that I'm also really into vampires. So when I get any downtime, I love to find some vampire books to read.
So Sarah was so kind to serve on a panel on an upcoming report that we're going to talk a little bit about today, and we actually did a deeper dive on the different vampire books. But out of respect for the time today, let's we'll save that for another date. So we're going to do a quick poll because we asked about Anne Rice. Somebody put, oh, it goes so much deeper than Anne Rice, it turns out. So I'm gonna launch a quick poll for us. So this is something that all of you should see for just a moment. And if you plan on participating in a community giving day, and for those who are not sure, we're going to be going into a definition of that. But especially for folks who are like, yeah, totally, like this is something that I'm really jazzed about and excited about. So we have over half of the people attending voting. I'm going to give it another few seconds. And Yeah, we got like 75%. So overwhelming amount. I'm going to show overwhelming amount of people are planning on participating in their community's giving day. 80%. There's a handful that aren't, and some are not sure. And so our goal, in all honesty, is we're going to try to convince you to do it, and we're going to try to convince you to leverage the peer-to-peer fundraising that comes with pretty much every platform. So this is not a Neon one specific thing. I just think that it's such an important part, and we've invested a lot to help, and so we're really excited about that. So, what does
Sorry,
Sarah
I'm
do?
laughing at the comment.
Did you see that?
I did, yeah, I can see the comments now. So Joel
Oh,
asked,
good.
what does Sarah do in the shadows? Which is the second time in 2 weeks that I've mentioned vampires in a webinar and had someone reference that show. So good job,
Nice.
Joel.
Very cool. Very cool. And I'm good. Good. Happy that you can see it.
Yeah.
All right. So giving days and peer-to-peer. First, what exactly is a giving day? And so the giving day, and okay, good. You can see the comments now. So you can also help me if I miss something now too, Sarah.
Great.
So what is a giving day? So a giving day is a specific type of event. It's historical genesis, I believe, dates back to Give Minnesota, if I'm remembering correctly, Sarah, that Dana was telling us on Give
I think
Minnesota.
so. I
Yeah,
think
Give
so.
Minnesota, North Texas. Those are some of the first ones that were, definitely about 20 years ago, where the concept actually has a lot of its root in the idea of like the community chest and United Ways and things like that. But basically, what that hat online while you were talking, nice. I don't get any money off of anyone who buys the hat, by the way. So which is perfectly fine. So a giving day is a very powerful 24-hour online fundraising competition. And so a lot of this is being able to bring people to one dedicated website and donate without having to hunt around for this nonprofit's donation page and that nonprofit's donation page. And it's really, really powerful as things get more sophisticated. This is not your simple put up a website and donate. There's a lot of stuff that goes into running a successful giving day, and I've learned this over the past 18 months because Neon One supports the largest giving days in the country. So being able to support a lot of different organizations with different needs, different stakeholders, different relationships, is what makes giving day so powerful. And we're going to be unpacking some data on the impact. We're doing some deep analysis and with our partners on this too. But peer-to-peer fundraising has really jumped up, and we'll get into the data on that. But Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit about generally what peer-to-peer fundraising is?
Yeah, so peer-to-peer fundraising is basically when you have an opportunity to involve some of your volunteers and supporters in asking their friends and family and connections for donations. So rather than you as a brand or you as a fundraiser making an ask, you're actually engaging those who are closest to your organization already to reach out to their networks, because then they're able to reach people who you might not have had a way to reach otherwise. And they're able to reach the people that they have the stronger relationship with, because as we all know, fundraising is all about who makes the ask and how connected you are to that person. People give to people.
Mm-hmm. It's about relationship building, and we'll get into especially the nuances of those relationships once we get into the stewardship side. But there we go. All right, and then this is a nice kind of graphical breakdown between the difference between like a crowdfunding and a peer-to-peer fundraising, which is that crowdfunding is where kind of like a GoFundMe, you have one page and you can say, hey, why don't I go and donate to this one website? But there's like maybe I'm asking a bunch of different people, and they might get listed as the donors part of the campaign. But there's really no like network effect. Whereas peer-to-peer fundraising, there's a network effect where you have the kind of the roll-up campaign, and then there's individual pages where the story is being told by the individual relating to their passion for the cause. And that's really, it's that extra layer that adds complexity when it comes to things like reporting, when it comes to things like, oh, I don't know, syncing to a nonprofit CRM. But the reality is that it makes the event so much more powerful, so much more powerful. And this is for any type of peer-to-peer. Now, Sarah and I are going to kind of go back and forth in terms of the different perspectives relating to both nonprofits and the fundraiser and the donor, depending on what type of an event it is. And so this is getting into the differences between something that an organization might manage for their peer-to-peer fundraising. And there's a lot of those different platforms out there, some of which Neon One currently provides. And then there's the Giving Day peer-to-peer, which is different. So Sarah, why don't you walk through, what a nonprofit might be doing and the differences between that. And then I'll handle the Giving Day peer-to-peer.
Sure. So as an organization, one option that I have, if I'm a director of development or an executive director and I'm thinking about how to mix peer-to-peer into my fundraising plan, there's a way to brand things for your own organization and use them all year long. So as Tim said, Neon One has products that do that. There are certainly other competitors in the market that a nonprofit could consider. Mm-hmm. And so you're paying some sort of fee to have access all year to a platform. So you can say, hey, we're an environmental organization and it's Earth Day. We're going to run a special peer-to-peer campaign and activate our network around that. You can say, hey, we've got, this date that's significant to our organization, the date we were founded or a founder's birthday, or, something that's going to resonate with our audience. And you can do it whenever you want to do it. And you get to control that branding. So you get to just say, every page that everybody makes that's raising money for you has your organization's information all over it. You have full control. You can immediately have access to the data and the funds that you raise, but you pay for that, right? And so for many of us, our budgets are extremely limited. And what's wonderful about a Giving Day is that it can be a chance to test that, have a different sandbox to test it in without as much upfront cost, which might be a step to get you ready to do a full peer-to-peer platform and run your own campaigns later. And it's its own thing in and of itself. So some organizations that have their own peer-to-peer platforms, I've worked for one of these that's large enough that it has its own system for that, also would still participate in the local Give Day because there's a lot of benefits to that. So I'll let Tim talk a little bit about a Giving Day.
So yeah, Giving Day, the differences there between an individual nonprofit managing it is that first, the actual experience is branded around the Giving Day itself. So if you go to one of the examples that will, or one of the Giving Days that will showcase later in the presentation, or you see a local Giving Day that's being promoted through social media or other media, traditional media, that it's branded for the day, and then it has all these other nonprofits who are part of the day. And the other difference is that if you, for instance, somebody asked, how do I get listed on a Giving Day? There's typically a registration, approval, and onboarding process. And so once you go through that, maybe you might enable the peer-to-peer option, but you might not know that somebody's actually going to set up a Giving Day page for you, whereas the kind of they're coming directly to your platform situation, it's going to be a lot more obvious. Now, the other thing is that many Giving Days themselves, the money that are raised on the day might not automatically flow. A lot of them, they like to flow them into the community foundation's kind of dispersal process. There might be a lot of donor advised funds involved as well that community members might want to pay out of their GAF that's connected to the community foundation. And so there might be a delay in the receipt of these funds as the reconciliation process happens. It's actually one of the most striking differences between any type of individual organizational management and Giving Days themselves. That's pretty much what I learned is it always comes down to finances, folks, by the way, no matter what. And this is typically only available for Giving Day participants. It should be noted that some platforms are starting to open up year round, that they still have a Giving Day, but that they've transitioned into year-round. Arizona Gives, Washington Gives are examples of our clients, for instance, that have said, you know what, we're still going to have a great day, but we're going to allow people to use the platform year-round. And a lot of small nonprofits like this, because they don't have to maintain an online presence, they can kind of outsource that to the Giving Day platform. And so some people like that. Others prefer more control over their brand. A lot of times, this is just part of the package for joining a Giving Day. At least for our clients, it's like, here you go. Like, you can experience this. It's your ability for signing up as part of the Giving Day. And once registration is complete, this is one of the many tools that we are providing you to be successful on the day. Now, from the fundraiser and donor perspective, things are also a little bit different. So Sarah, why don't you walk us through the organizational point of view?
Yeah, so if I am a donor who's going to give to one of these campaigns, or if I'm the volunteer donor who's going to create a fundraiser and ask folks for money, if the organization is doing its standalone peer-to-peer platform unrelated to a Giving Day, that means that I'm probably going to have to coordinate with someone at the organization to even get started. I can't just go and choose to do it. But it also means that I'm more likely to be guaranteed support from the nonprofit staff to run my campaign and ask my friends and family for money. And maybe I want some hand holding because maybe I'm not really comfortable with asking for money, but I'm passionate enough to give it a try. Also, I'm probably able to choose any time that works for me to initiate that campaign. So this gives me that chance to use it for my birthday, my anniversary, whatever dates in my life might be significant to me that are going to resonate with my friends and family who I'm asking and are going to make sense for me to feel like it's the right time to ask them for a gift. Another benefit or drawback, depending on who you ask, is, a donor is probably going to get added to the organization's mail list. So if I make a donation to a friend's fundraiser, maybe I don't actually want that, but all of us on the call are on the nonprofit side, and we know we want that opportunity to add those folks to our mail list and keep them updated on what their gift did. So we're going to spin that as a positive and hope we don't abuse it in a way that makes them feel it's a negative.
Mm-hmm.
On a Giving Day, the nonprofit may or may not be as involved, right? I might be able to go in and say, yeah, I'm going to set this up, and I may or may not hear from the nonprofit. So one of the things we'll talk about today is how you as the nonprofit can make sure they do hear from you. People have to donate through the Giving Day site as opposed to the organization's website directly. And there may be extra steps to coordinate communications to the donor. So as a donor, I might want to know how my gift is being used, and I might be less likely to get that information on a Giving Day, depending on how well the nonprofit organization is comfortable with the platform, pulls my information, integrates it into their system. I didn't give to something that directly tied to it, unless a few months from now I gave through, I guess, a Neon One platform, because eventually those will tie for some Give Days, but it's not how it typically works yet.
Give us time.
Yep.
So we'll get into that a little bit later on. But yeah, and kind of think of this as like, there's degrees of involvement that individuals have when it comes to an affinity for an organization. And a lot of times what we want to do is, as quickly as possible, move from this is a donor to an individual to this becomes a donor to the day. And we're going to get into, or to the nonprofit rather. So we're going to get into that strategy under retention. But first, I want to talk very quickly about a new report that we have that's in the design phase and should be coming out very, very soon. The Finding Your Power Fundraisers report. Sarah served on a panel last week with other fellow partners, Charity Dynamics and Heller Consulting. It was part of a special accelerator series that we're doing for kind of more enterprise peer-to-peer. And so we commissioned a report to analyze peer-to-peer fundraising for our enterprise platform, but we also said, what about the entry level? What about the people who are like not ready, like Sarah talked about, to like dive in and invest here? Giving Days are the best mechanism for that. So what's happening there? And so what we're seeing across the board is that people are generous, people are activated, people are getting very, very excited about this. And even Winton's question about for a board challenge, we can definitely talk about that a little bit later on for peer-to-peer. But overall, we're seeing a lot of very exciting data when it comes to all of our peer-to-peer offerings. Specific to Giving Days, we actually saw, compared to 2019, during the pandemic, 120% growth in Giving Day specific revenue for peer-to-peer. So we're really excited about this report. This should be coming out very soon. Will be available for free on the Neon One website. I'm not going to use the hat to plug that later. More to come here, but the data is very, very clear. And we're going to get into some other data later on when it comes to retention specific to a presentation with Sarah. So Sarah, why don't you talk about recruitment and enablement? I know this is a quick section, but an important section.
Yeah, so what's on this screen is a screenshot of an actual email that I typed in something like 2017 from a local animal rescue, cat rescue nonprofit. And this was related to Giving Tuesday, which is not the same thing as a giving day, but the same strategy applies. They were kicking off this campaign. And so this is just part of a general email they're sending to their entire audience and just saying like, this is an opportunity for you. In this case, they were asking us to use Facebook to fundraise, which can function sort of like a peer-to-peer platform in and of itself, which again is another topic to get into. But you can see where you could use a model like this and replace Giving Tuesday with whatever your city's Give Day is, and replace Facebook with here's the platform that you use to create your own peer-to-peer campaign. So this is your sort of least personal way to make that ask. You can put something like this in whatever email blast you're about to send out as your Giving Day is coming up and make an ask like this. You can go a step further and start to get more personal. So this is your chance also to reach out one-on-one to your board, to volunteers you have who may have already raised peer-to-peer funds through whatever opportunities your organization has offered in the past. So you don't have to send just an email blast, right? You can get on the phone with someone, you can text someone, however you're already communicating with people, you can reach out one-to-one and make that ask of those folks. But if you've got nowhere else to start, or you want to try to reach a few other people that you might not have had on your list to call, this is a great template for what that can look like.
And more to come on Facebook fundraisers, folks. Our final peer-to-peer workshop will actually, on St. Patrick's Day, focus on Facebook fundraising with Julia Campbell herself. And that email should be going out in our March newsletter for how to sign up for that. So just FYI there, more to come. So also, how do you prepare your volunteers, people like board members and other ones when you're looking to recruit them?
Yeah, so I like to frame this as, start with how, give them instructions on how they're going to make their gift. Now, when you're doing this as part of a giving day, you've probably got a lot of materials available from your community foundation that are going to be easy for you to kind of copy and paste, or resources you can just link to and share. So they take some of the work off for you because it's very easy to explain those step-by-step instructions. And I think Tim's actually going to show us what the platform looks like that many of the nonprofits, many of the Give Days use around the country, and it's very user-friendly. So the how is going to be a cinch for your volunteer donors, volunteer fundraisers rather. Next is why. So you're going to have to help your volunteers with how they craft the story that they tell when they fundraise. So if you're that cat rescue from that couple emails ago, maybe you're helping people think about how they tell the story of the pet that they got from that rescue center and what that pet has meant for them in their life, and how they share that story with people who know them and possibly know their pet to encourage those friends and family of theirs to raise money for that organization. If you're a different kind of nonprofit, maybe it's people talking about their experience with your mission. Whatever that is that makes sense, you want to make sure you're helping your volunteer craft a story that includes them, that's going to resonate to their network. Volunteers should be making a list of contacts they're going to reach out to. So it's your job as the staff at the nonprofit to help those volunteers think about who do they want to reach out to, who do they think might actually give to this, because if they go in armed with that list, it's going to be easier for them to make sure that they actually contact and ask the folks that they want to ask, because we all know you're more likely to get a gift when you ask for it. The when and where is helping them outline a communications plan. So if they're going to have this campaign, just setting it up isn't enough. They're going to have to share it on their social media channels, email it to folks, send text messages or private messages, whatever it is that they do to communicate with the people that they want to ask. They're going to want to think about how they do that. And preferably, again, the same way that I'm encouraging you to maybe pick up the phone or send a direct one-to-one email to ask your more close supporters, you want your volunteers who are fundraising for you to do something besides just send blasts on social media. You don't want them to just post. You want them to actually reach out one-on-one and make that ask, hey, Tim, let me send you an email and say, I've got this special thing going on. I know you share my passion for this particular kind of cause. Will you please make this gift? That's going to be more effective than me hoping that Tim happens to see my tweet, even though he probably will see my tweet because he does tend to see a lot of them. And the what is going to be helping your volunteers set a goal. And that becomes much easier once they've made that list of people they want to reach out to. They can even start to put a number and say, I think Tim's good for this number. I think somebody else is good for this other amount. And they can total it up and give themselves a goal that they hopefully feel is realistic.
Sorry, and somebody's asking about cross-state compliance and registration, and I'm just typing out to help answer this. So cross-state solicitation, especially digitally, is very murky right now in the world, and long and short is we have a great partner called Harbor Compliance that may have some resources on digital solicitations on their website to specifically answer this. This is one of the reasons why I recruited them as a partner, because they can help answer that.
Yeah.
Okay, and we got some
Yes, I see another question about if we don't have volunteers, who do we go to?
That's a good question.
So when I use the term volunteers in this sense, I mean the people who have volunteered to raise money for you, the people you're going to recruit to raise money. That might be people who are volunteers in some way already with your organization, but if you don't have volunteers in any other sense, once you convince someone to say yes to raising money for you through a peer-to-peer campaign, they are in a sense a volunteer. They're your volunteer fundraiser. They're not getting paid to fundraise for your organization, but they're doing it because they're passionate. So aside from your volunteer pool, look at your board, look at some of your top donors, the people who already give to you, especially loyally. I look at their loyalty more than I look at the dollar amounts when I look at who might be good for an ask to be a volunteer fundraiser for a peer-to-peer campaign.
Awesome. And by the way, we got some more great recommendations on the solicitation requirements front and the registration front. So 501c3.org, amazing resource. So that's a good one. Thank you. And then Jennifer, Arizona recommends Caritas registration. And if Jennifer and Arizona recommend it, then it is good. I can tell you that right now. So very, very cool. Thank you both of you for your suggestions. Okay. So we've figured out how to solicit people. We've gotten them onboarded. We gave them some help to tell their story. The day comes, right? Like, and actually, we almost a little bit missed one step, Sarah, in retrospect, what happens on the day. So maybe before we shift into after the day, maybe talk a little bit about like the reality of what you saw during for St. Louis on like what was happening during the day itself when it came to these types of campaigns.
Yeah, I think honestly, as a director of development, when I think back at one of my former professional roles, Give STL Day was probably the most exhausting day of the year for me when I was director of development in a small nonprofit, because I didn't have an additional team of fundraising staff. I was at a shop of one, and we went all in on peer-to-peer fundraising on Give STL Day. And so, it's a 24-hour event, and I was up for pretty much the whole 24 hours. And I am not normally someone who stays up into the evening, but
yep.
I suggest that if you're going to go all in and make it a thing. Make sure you plan to have a day off, shortly after the event, so you can recover your sleep and get some rest. That balance is important. But going all in on the event was really meaningful for us. And over the few years I was with a past organization, we really did grow each year in how well we saw results and grew our pool of donors through the event and drew those who are doing peer-to-peer campaigns closer to our organization by inviting them to do that kind of service each year. And so really the day of is a combination of your brand's communications, right? Because it's probably not a strictly peer-to-peer method. You're probably also doing some posts of your own that day, maybe some videos, and trying to engage your broad audience in more of a crowdfunding manner. And you have this group of volunteers that you've recruited who are doing their own peer-to-peer fundraising, and they might need some hand-holding. So I make myself completely available to them. Everybody who was working a peer-to-peer campaign had my cell phone number and was able to call or text when they had questions. And so I would be ready to help them with, here's some language you can use for that next ask, or that kind of thing. I was also making sure to quickly send a thank you throughout the day. So I was keeping track of watching those gifts come in on the website. I was logged in so I could watch that. And when we'd get a gift that came in through a campaign, I would immediately reach out to that volunteer, thank you so much. You just got so-and-so to give this many dollars. And in addition to that, I was trying to send quick emails to individual donors themselves for donating by email. And another thing that I was doing during the day of was keeping an eye on the different prizes available. So I don't know exactly what it looks like in each of your cities, but for Give STL Day in St. Louis, Missouri, our community foundation recruits different sponsors. And so we have things like power hours where you get a big pool of money that's going to be prorated and divided between all the gifts that come in. So you get a sort of mini match. And then we also would have different hours where there would be a contest. So an organization of this size can qualify for this prize by either raising the most dollars or getting the most donors this hour. So I would usually pick one that was earlier in the day that we could qualify for and have folks try to target that. And then when we inevitably didn't get it because we were not big enough to have a good shot at one of these prizes, I would pick one later in the day and say, well, now we've got a chance at that. Let's try that. And if we had ever won, that would have been phenomenal. But even knowing that we didn't probably have the greatest chance, being able to say, hey, there's a chance was a great way to get folks to make a gift. So I would be retooling my organization's messages that I was sending out throughout the day, but I would also be reaching out to my peer-to-peer fundraisers and letting them know, hey, now we're targeting this thing at 4 p.m. Can you try to reach out to your folks and see if they can give during that hour so we can try to qualify for this prize? So it's just a lot of communication and staying in touch with everyone and watching to see what happens.
And here's a good capacity question, especially as a shop of one for you. Is there a max number of people that you're trying to recruit to be effective?
That's a good question. I think it is probably worth it for you to think about how much time you think you're going to spend with people. For me, the volunteers I was using were mostly pretty tech savvy and comfortable with the platform. And so their questions were quite simple.
Yeah.
And they were pretty communicative ahead of time. I could see where someone might have a pool of volunteer fundraisers who might need more handholding or have more questions during the day. So I think it would be a good idea for you to examine your capacity and who you have involved to help you, if anyone, with that during the day, and think about if there is a cap on what you feel like you can do well and cap it if you need to.
And we'll touch on both a combination of timelines and resources, providing toolkits, and definitely leveraging the resources that your Giving Day host provides you is going to be vital to cut down on you pulling your own hair out during the day. The host is there to help you. That's the big thing here, is that this is something that they put a lot of work to make this successful for their nonprofits, and a lot of it comes down to preparation. So what I want to do is make sure we shift into kind of the end game here. So next few minutes we're going to talk about what next. And Sarah's going to share a really interesting experiment that she did, and then we'll end on a sneak peek on what's coming for spring and beyond. And when it comes to comms plans and timelines, and oh yeah, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Don't worry, folks. So some brand new Fundraising Effectiveness Project data. Fundraising Effectiveness Project is the largest analysis of individual donor data in the world. It is an initiative between the Growth in Giving Project from AFP Foundation and Giving Tuesday. Neon One is a proud supporter and data sponsor of this initiative. And so this is some of the best retention and trend data that you can find. So basically what we saw in 2020 is donors are up, donations were generally up, retention continues to go down. That is people who are giving and then giving again. And so that is really, really key here. What we're going to talk about in this section is donor retention, especially repeat donor retention, new donor retention, awful. And a lot of giving days are a really big acquisition medium, and peer-to-peer is a big acquisition medium for first-time donors. So that's why I want to zero in on this number. This number, new donor retention rate, is awful. It's really, really bad. And so if you have a plan for these Giving Day donors with the understanding that the vast majority of these people are going to be new, then you can avoid this, because retaining donors is really important for long-term growth. And so there's been a lot of research for this, but basically for every dollar that you acquire, it costs your organization $1.25. So let that sink in. If you let that dollar walk out the door next year, you lost money. But if you bring it back, the data shows that this compounds and you continue to grow and grow. And the more that that person comes back, the more likely they will always continue to come back. So, Sarah, why don't you take it for this next few slides in terms of your, thanking people and what to do, and then we could shift into the final part.
Sure. So many of you are probably familiar with Tom Ahern, and in one of his blog posts that he wrote, he cited this research that first-time donors who receive a personal thank you within 48 hours are 4 times more likely to give again. So there are tools that we can use that data has proven will help us do much better than 19 point whatever % retention of our first-time donors. So he gave us one great tip right here, which is a personal thank you note within 48 hours. And this is the tool that I've always used with my organizations. I would often spend Give STL Day writing some thank you notes in real time and passing them around the office, having the rest of the staff, we were a small enough organization that for us, having every single staff member sign was appropriate. For your shop, depending on your size, maybe it's every development officer, maybe it's a group of key volunteers or board members. Maybe it's just you, right? Maybe it's just one person, but sending that handwritten card out in the mail immediately the next day was powerful and worked really well. And
It does.
so
It is powerful, by the way,
huge.
because I donated to you, and it blew me away that from a giving day, I did not expect from a giving day that I was going to get a handwritten note so quickly, and Sarah rocked it. This is one of the reasons why we're talking today, is because of that. So talk a little bit about kind of the differences when, what you saw and experienced around St. Louis.
Yeah, so I decided in 2019 to do my own case study. I wanted to do my own experiment. And so for my city, Give STL Day, you make your gift and you're making it to the community foundation, not technically to the nonprofit, right? It goes to the community foundation first with the intention for it to ultimately flow to the nonprofit. But in our case, it usually takes 2 or 3 months to actually get the check in the mail. So we know about the money, we know about the donors, but that money's not going to hit our bank account for a few months. And none of our automatic systems are going to apply. So since folks are not making that gift on our website or mailing that check to our office, it's not going to go into our database that day like it would normally. And so I had to make sure that I was amending our practices and finding a way to make sure that that information entered our database that day. Or if we didn't put it in the database until we got the check, that at least we were doing something manually to thank people in the meantime. So the right solution there might vary by your organization and what its current practices are, but whatever systems you have, assuming that you have something in place already for when you receive a donation, it's probably going to function different for your Give Day donors. So if we go to the next slide, this is a screenshot of an email that I received thanking me for one of the gifts I made that day. And so it just shows you my donation, my initial receipt as a donor comes from givestlday.org, from our community foundation. And it says, thank you, you made a gift, it's going to go to this organization. And it has my tax information in this email. So as a donor, now I've gotten the tax receipt I need, assuming that I need a tax receipt for my $10 gift. But I have not heard anything from the organization that I've given to when I received this email. So it's now on them to see, are they going to respond? So if we go to the next slide, here is my secret shopper experiment. Okay. I looked at all of our organizations, and in St. Louis for our Give Day, they're classified as micro, small, medium, or large nonprofits based on budget size. And there are a number of different sort of mission bucket categories that they build out. So I decided I wanted to give gifts to a combination of all 4 sizes, because maybe practices vary by size. And I picked animal, human service, environment, and health organizations. I chose 17 organizations that I had never made a donation to before, so I'm not already in their system. And I chose from each of those 4 categories at least one of each of the size organizations. I gave a total of 23 gifts that day. Some of them were to repeat organizations of those 23. And of those donations, if we slide to the next slide, a week later, here's what I had heard. I had gotten 3 emails I had gotten 0 cards or letters in the mail, and I'd received 0 phone calls. That's it from the nonprofits themselves. And I thought, well, okay, it's only been a week. Maybe some people are a little behind. We say 48 hours.
Sorry, spoiler. A month
A
later.
month later, now I've gotten 5 emails. I've gotten 4 cards or letters in the mail, and I've still gotten 0 phone calls out of 23 gifts. So this, my point to you, and I think I saw something start to come up in the questions about this, 48 hours is that gold standard that's been tested, and that's great. And the thing is that none of us are perfect. And so it's better to send it 3 or 4 days or a week later than it is to not send it at all. So try to build systems that allow you to make it within 48 hours. But if you can't, then do what you can do, because as you can see, even a month later, most organizations had done nothing. So you don't have to do a whole lot to stand out above that baseline. And this probably speaks pretty well to where that 19% retention comes from of first-time donors. This is what we need to do. And I see questions about email.
Yeah.
Email is less personal. It's better than nothing. My preferred thing for you to do, if you're able, would be to send a personal email immediately the day of, because you're getting that data. You can be logged in and getting that data during your give day. Send that email immediately and say thank you, and then put that card in the mail that same week.
And I want to make it clear that when we're talking about these guidelines, this isn't a I can't believe you're not doing this type of thing. Like, that's not the tone. The reality is that investing in these types of things means that you're shifting from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset. And what that in its simplest form is not saying to yourself, I don't have enough time to do this, or this is not something that's prioritized because I have to do this other stuff that relates to like the grant or things like that. What we're trying to say is, by investing in these things, the payoff is massive down the line.
Yeah.
Massive.
And I love this point from Joel, who's also from St. Louis, that the post office is a new thing, right? So I did this experiment in 2019. So the post office was not a function then of this experiment, but it certainly is a reality now, and I've experienced the mail delays and how they impact things. So it's an even extra reason maybe for right now to think about, do that quick email and then also put something in the mail. And even if it gets there a little later because the mail's delayed, they've heard something from you.
And Sarah, I want to make sure that we're respectful of people's time, and we had a lot of fun banning about and engaging things. So I think that, like, in terms of immediate, maybe let's do like a quick fire on like, you have an immediate thank you idea and I can do one, and then the next slide we can have that same thing, and then we'll shift it to the final part.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've covered this pretty well. I think we get the idea of the immediate thank you.
Yeah, how about sharing impact?
So that's telling the stories as you send those thank yous, and following up later, months later, with here's what actually happened.
Yeah. And I see another question, and Scott, I know you asked this a few times. It's hard to actually say here's a directory of all the giving days in the country, but a lot of providers like Neon One have resources to help find that. We actually have that in the deck today. So, all right. So what I want to do is make sure we get a little bit of a preview of what we're doing for our Giving Day hosts, and specifically the nonprofits that they support and the peer-to-peer fundraising. So I'm actually going to pop out of the slides. I'm going to go ahead, and this is kind of the experience that a nonprofit would have. And it should be noted that if you are doing something like Give STL Day, it is branded for the day. So like, this is not what you're going to necessarily see. You're going to see something like for Arizona Gives, right? Something like that. So I'm going to log in as a nonprofit, and so it actually uses the same login as your Neon CRM. Hint, hint. You can see where we're going here, folks. But I'm just going to at least make that clear. And so I'm going to log in as a nonprofit who's been approved and is part of the Giving Day itself. And so first and foremost, we've debuted a new resource center. So this is something that we're doing in conjunction with our Giving Day hosts, where we're loading in content and they can load in their own personalized content. So there's a lot of nuances to the day itself that we as a company are never going to understand. So being able to work in concert with them to talk about things that are very specific to their day that they can quickly get out is very important. But we also have amazing experts like Sarah and people like Julia Campbell, who wrote this blog recently for us, actually specifically to help with giving days. That we like to draw into the Neon One ecosystem to help any organization. So that's an important point. We're not going to go too far into what a giving day profile looks like because, in all honesty, you should be getting trained on that with your specific day. So we're going to actually shift into how peer-to-peer works with kind of our long-term vision. So somebody was actually even asking about timelines, by the way. We actually loaded in the ability for a day to put in their own milestone events. So what we have here is very similar in terms of design to all of our other products. And so somebody can actually access the peer-to-peer platform here, or I can click here. And this is what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go straight to it. So I've shifted over into the Neon Raise platform. And this is really cool because a nonprofit can start to leverage this in a few different ways, but specific to the Giving Day, it's preloaded the campaign for the Giving Day itself. And so you can kind of see your success, post event and things like that. This is especially important for the peer-to-peer because this is what we've built out to make it easy to actually design beautiful pages and experiences for your community. So an individual nonprofit would be able to utilize this and offer donation pages that end up looking like this within the Giving Day. So notice it lives within the branding of the Giving Day. I'd be able to find it in all the fundraising pages here. If I donate, it's going to go through the experience of the Giving Day checkout process itself. But what's really cool about the back end here is that we've actually allowed it some steps to make it easy for people to do the peer-to-peer fundraising on the Giving Day itself. So encouraging people to set a goal, telling people to write a story, adding an image, personalizing the URL. And so if I actually go ahead and start to edit the page, this is kind of what your fundraiser would be experiencing. You'd be able to offer this as a way, hey, set up a page, tell your own story. And so on the fly, I'd be able to even like update things. And it's like, something like Team Big Cat, like there we go. And then you can update your goal. You can add beautiful images here. You can tell your story and you're seeing it live in terms of what's happening. And then you can go ahead and save it. But something to a point that was made before that I think is very important is also the idea that we've created of templates. And so you can actually create a preloaded template that when you send it out to your board members or your volunteers, that it's actually something that is preloaded with some prompts, some photos. And so you can start to design this. This is where we encourage you as a nonprofit participating in a peer-to-peer campaign on a Gives Day. How can I tailor my template to the audience that I'm going to send this to? So if it's for your board members, maybe put in a big prompt to be like, say that you're on the board and why you joined the board, something like that. So we're really excited about this. The donations are going to also flow into the system. You're going to see it in the Giving Day side too. And the intention is that this can turn into a year-round platform as well, if you wanted to actually embrace this for your own organization's online fundraising and light peer-to-peer tools. And eventually, this is where Neon CRM comes into play for you CRM users. But a lot of organizations might not even be ready for a CRM, which is why Neon Raise also exists. And so being able to kind of say, look, I want to create a branded form that is for me as a nonprofit is another extra thing that we're going to continue to kind of celebrate, debut, and work on. But as we talked about, today's focus was on peer-to-peer and your Giving Day. So that's kind of what we have cooking here. We're really excited about it. There's some great reporting and dashboards with KPIs in there. But kind of rounding things out, Sarah, I know we're a tiny bit over.
Yeah, I tried to just go through the chat while you were talking, and so I
Awesome,
really
thank you.
hope that what I sent went to everyone. I tried to pick the questions we hadn't already covered and do something that should have gone in writing to everybody who's still on.
So, where do I find a giving day in my community? Well, we have several coming up during spring, starting with Arizona on April 6th, all the way to the Great Give Day on May 13th. And Jenna, by the way, fantastic Neon One team member. Oh, don't understand what a personalized URL is? Oh, that means like you can like say Team Pat like you like instead of a bunch of numbers or something, it can actually like literally say like go to this simple URL. It would be like azgives.org/ like Team Pat, something like that. It's a cool feature. Don't forget about your own staff members as potential fundraisers. They are enthusiastic. So if you are looking for a giving day in your community, you might have heard about some of these. Probably the one thing I'll add next time is the geographic location where they are. But if this like any of these names sound familiar, then definitely check it out. Like NOLA is New Orleans, obviously. Wybrasca, I think we can understand where that is. But these are some amazing days that are going to be able to, you can leverage what I just showed you for peer-to-peer. What does a CRM stand for? A constituent relationship management system. So if you are talking to people and want to scale your relationships and have a lot of built-in tools for that, we have that too. And yes, we have other great other things like KY Gives through the Kentucky nonprofits, and awesome. And so, in terms of what we just saw, Neon One comprises many different pieces of software, as we talked about in the beginning of the presentation. This is a separate part of our ecosystem, but the peer-to-peer plan is that all this is going to connect. So that's what we got next. So final thing, our next webinar in our series for March, kicking off March, is going to be with our friends at Fundraise Up. And this is going to be going over creating the perfect online donation experience for your organization for year-round forms. And we actually have in our CRM product a fantastic new integration. Again, integrations are very important to us, so we're going to be doing it. So if you want to sign up for that, there's a very simple place that you can do that. It is neon1.com. I don't know if the hat updated. There you go. And we're so thankful for you staying with us. I know we're a tiny bit over. I want to thank all of you for coming today. And we also have some further resources in the deck that you'll be able to download either in the handouts today or on the website. This has been recorded. Sarah, any final words before we sign off for today?
No, just good luck to everyone, and feel free to find me on LinkedIn and reach out if you have questions. Happy to connect.
Yeah, awesome. And we're so thankful for all of you. And I don't know if we have one in Hampton Roads, Virginia, but I'd love one, by the way, if we don't. So maybe we could make that happen. And awesome. Thank you so much, folks, for spending your time with us today. And we're very, very excited to have you. And all right, I think, Sarah, that's all she wrote for today.
Yep, that's it. Have a great
Cool.
day, everyone.
Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Thank you.